Hi, I'm Nick Rains from Leica Camera Australia. I've been working with the Leica Q3 for a few weeks now. I'd like to share with you some of the new features and my first impressions. So what's all the fuss about? Well, it's the same camera externally except for one huge thing, and that's the tilt screen on the back. And this is a big departure from Leica's previous design aesthetics, because they always said, no, it spoils the look of the camera and it takes up too much space. Well, they've been listening to the demands from customers and also comments from people like me, and I've said there needs to be a tilt screen. It's just so useful. Well, now we have one. It tilts to 90 degrees in an upward direction, like that, and it tilts to a 45 degree in a downward direction, like that. It doesn't swivel and face forward because it was decided that that was not strong enough to work with such a robust camera. So we have tilt, but we don't have swivel. Really, really useful for shooting high angles, low angles, without having to stand on a stepladder or get too low to the ground, and helps my knees, those sorts of shots. Another big deal, of course, is 60 megapixels, which is a lot. It's a big step up from the previous 47 megapixels, and it's now almost identical to the M11. It's not precisely the same sensor, but the resolution is identical, and the back side illuminated technology is the same. So you've got that 15 stops of dynamic range. And you've also got the pixel binning technology, which allows you to shoot the large, medium, and small DNG files for a little bit of added dynamic range. To be honest, not something I use very much, because the differences between them are measurable, but not necessarily visible in most photographs. So I just want the resolution. I want the picture to have as many pixels as possible on the subject, so I've got as sharp an image as possible. Speaking of sharp, the lens is the same lens as in the Q2. It was designed originally to be capable of handling resolutions up to at least 60 megapixels and beyond, so there's been no changes to the lens, because it doesn't need it. It's a beautiful lens and has a phenomenal reputation, as I'm sure you know. I know this is a relatively crude test, but you should be able to see the little boxes on my eyes and another square around my face as the autofocus system recognizes the shapes in front of it, and it will compensate for those movements of my face by refocusing. And if I sit back, it should refocus. If I come forward nice and close, it'll refocus, and if I move left and right, it will follow my head around the viewfinder. So it's a really neat little system. It works really well and really smoothly. Another addition, which is quite impressive, in fact I was very surprised when I saw this, is the inclusion of 8K video. 4K has become almost a standard. This goes to 8K, and the processor, the Maestro 4 processor, is capable of handling the processing of such large data volumes onto normal SD cards. The results are beautiful. It's super, super sharp. And then if you're shooting in 8K, you can then crop 4K bits out of it. You could even track a crop across the frame to give you a kind of camera movement rather than actually physically moving the camera. So very, very useful. The optical image stabilizer in the lens gives you a nice steady shot, so it's very, very useful. It'll work in L-log. You have the ability to record to ProRes, so it's a top-notch video system, pretty much on a par with the SL2 and the SL2S in terms of professional quality. It's really, really effective. I've been using it quite a bit. Something else that would be worth mentioning is the inclusion of 4 custom buttons now. So we have the button in the middle of the wheel on the back for your thumb. Both buttons above the viewfinder or the screen on the back are customizable, plus the button in the middle of the rocker switch is customizable as well. So you can make the camera work however you would like it to. There's a whole bunch of new accessories, of course, with a thumb rest. There's nice brass colored lens hoods and not brass colored, actually are brass, hot shoe cover. There's a grip that you can use. You can even use that grip on the camera on a charging pad like an iPhone or an iWatch, so you can just plonk the camera down and it will charge for you. So very cool new tech in it. The important thing is, what do the pictures look like? So let's have a look at some of the images I've been able to shoot over the last month or so. Well, the answer, of course, is that the pictures look wonderful. The first set are some party pictures I took when we were training in Germany, training on the Q3, and it's a wonderful camera for simply picking up and taking pictures of whatever's happening around you very quickly, very easily indeed. You can just have the camera on the table, grab it, shoot, just as a point and shoot camera, capture those spontaneous moments. Fantastic, and also great at high ISO, of course. Then moving on to Ludlow in Shropshire, UK, where I was on a personal trip, I just used the camera as a walk-around camera, and I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed using it. You sling it over your shoulder, put it in a bag, whatever you want to do. It's incredibly convenient, very responsive, very light, and obviously very high quality. All I was doing was looking around the old medieval town, looking for images that interested me. The church was fantastic. The streets have all sorts of interesting little alleyways that you can photograph. It's an excellent place just to poke around looking for, interesting photographs. So I used the crop mode quite a bit to frame my images, and there's loads of resolution there, even at 90mm, for anything that you might view on social media, or on a phone or an iPad. Even if you were to do a printed book of your trip, for instance, you would be able to do up to A4 without any trouble, even at the 90mm crop setting. So that gives you lots of opportunities for creativity. The metering worked beautifully, the focusing worked beautifully. It was just discreet, lightweight, easy to work with, and I just enjoyed using it so much more than I was expecting. It's just a lovely little camera to use. So yeah, overall my impression of the camera is extremely fun to use. I could treat it as a very serious camera, use it on a tripod, go for this 60 megapixel image, which I could do huge prints of, but I can also use it as purely a simple point and shoot camera just for having fun and getting back to that enjoyment of photography for its own sake. So I really enjoyed using the camera, highly recommended.